Hey guys, Rich here from HowToPlayPokerInfo.com, and today I want to talk to you about Riase Your Edge and our Tournament Masterclass course. In case you haven't ever heard of Bencb, he's the owner of Riase Your Edge and the creator of the Tournament Masterclass. He is also one of the best MTT players around, has a huge online following, and has won millions of dollars, including a 2016 WCOOP title. Not so long ago, he created a course called the Tournament Masterclass to bring all of his knowledge to one place so that you can learn the strategies he has used to crush for years. Since launch, the Tournament Masterclass has become one of the most popular poker training programs available. So today, I want to walk you through exactly what to expect inside and what my overall impressions are of the program. Just to let you know before we start, I am a big fan of Riase Your Edge, and I actually ranked them as #1 training site in my poker training sites review page. In this page on HowToPlayPokerInfo.com, I looked at many of the most popular poker training sites on the market, and I ranked and reviewed them. I compiled tons of information on each to help you make your decision as easily as possible. So if you are interested in any form of poker training, I'd make sure to check that out. I will leave a link in the description down below. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in and show you what the inside of the course looks like. Riase Your Edge are constantly improving this course, adding new content, changing the layout, adding quizzes, updating and adding more ranges, etc. So the overall look and feel of the course is constantly changing. It's very different to when I first joined. And the great thing is that you get all of these future upgrades for free once you buy, but for new members the price will obviously go up as they add new content. Inside, you can see that the course is broken down into a fairly logical path, starting off with pre-flop strategies like opening ranges, 3-betting, flatting, then moving on to post-flop play and everything involved there. Then some other more specific lessons such as short stacks play, ICM, heads up, high stake reviews, bonus content, and then some content for preparing for scoop. One thing I did note when I first took this course a while back was that the videos are very long and difficult to follow. Some were up around 1 hour and 30 minutes and even 2 hours long. Well, the team at Riase Your Edge must have heard this and changed it such that the lessons are now much shorter, much easier to follow, and also have quizzes afterwards to make sure you're following along. I really liked the quizzes and felt they helped a lot. Knowing you're going to test it after each lesson gives you a little bit of extra motivation to keep listening as carefully as possible and take some notes. Despite most lessons now having been shortened down, there's still a few longer ones in there. However, I'd assume over time these are also going to be shortened down as well. The very first lesson is a brief introduction which talks about your goals and motivations. There's not too much to talk about here, but what you can see is the player which is used throughout the course, which has some useful features. Down the bottom right of the player, you can see that you can change the audio and the speed of the video. I typically watch the video at about 1.5x speed, which means you do get through the course a little bit quicker, but that will depend on your preference. Although I do wish that you could set the speed to be 1.5x for every video and not have to do it every time. This is a very minor point. Another feature of this course is the ability to take notes on each lesson. So you can type out your notes and then save them to come back later. I do like this feature, although in my opinion it's better to be taking notes by hand, as this helps the information sink in a lot easier and you remember your notes much better. So after the introduction video, we'll go into the pre-flop section and you'll see a series of videos on understanding the ranges, which is about the range viewer that comes with the course. If you don't know what the range viewer is, it's pretty much a web application that tells you what hands you should be playing as a standard for a particular situation. The range viewer is one of the most comprehensive parts of the whole course, and it's one of the most valuable parts of the course in my opinion. This tool basically tells you what hands you should be playing from almost any situation imaginable pre-flop. The amount of detail that has gone into this is crazy, so let me show you how it works. On the left hand side you can see all the different situations that are possible: open raising, flatting and 3-betting, jamming, and then we can open that up further to see all the different stack sizes. So 100 big blinds, 60 big blinds, 40 big blinds. And if I click on 100 big blinds, you can then see it broken down further by the positions that we can raise from. If I click on, say for example, the button, you can then see all the hands that we're supposed to open, colored for the different situations that we might face. So on the legend on the right hand side, you can see it broken down by the green hands, which are the hands that we should 3-bet or 4-bet if given the opportunity. We should only call a 3-bet if raised with the yellow hands. With the red hands, these are the hands we should 4-bet bluff. And then the blue and the orange hands are some other slightly different scenarios. You can also see the number of combos that are given down below. So overall, there's an immense amount of information contained in this range viewer, and again, it's one of the most comprehensive and one of the most valuable parts of the course. So heading back to the main course page, you can see that you just jump straight into ranges with a lot of discussion of what hands you should play from each position and what adjustments you should make. There isn't any time explaining the fundamentals of poker. So if you're a beginner, you'll find this all very difficult to grasp because none of the basics of poker are covered in any detail. So the basics I mean as pot odds, implied odds, counting outs, board texture, or even the terminology. That's great if you're an experienced player as you get straight into the high level concepts, but as a beginner, you're fairly likely to feel lost. Next to the pre-flop section, Bencb moves on to a range of topics such as playing when facing a raise, playing versus 3-bets and 4-bets, defending from the blinds, and then squeezing. The one thing that I appreciate most from these lessons is that he tells you the standard way to play, but then gives you some really key and easy to implement adjustments to make versus common player types that you'll find in MTTs. So from almost every lesson, you'll come away with actionable steps that you can implement into your game. At the end of each main topic, there are play and explains, which I found very helpful. And a little tip I'd give you is just before he begins describing his thought process for particular hands that he's showing, you should pause the video and try to logic out the hand based on what you've watched so far and of course your previous experience. It takes much longer to watch the videos this way, maybe even 2 to 3 times as long, but it'll improve your thought process immensely. There are a couple of other aspects to the pre-flop play discussed, such as the common mistakes, how to adjust to different stack sizes, but really the most important part is getting your ranges right so that playing post-flop is easier. Homework suggestions are pretty common in this course, and one of the first pieces of homework that is suggested is that you develop your own opening ranges through a process called range construction. There are a couple of different videos on range construction for each situation, such as opening pre-flop range construction, 3-betting and flatting, etc. And I think this is one of the best ways you can go about improving your pre-flop game. So essentially what this involves is that you try to come up with the ranges that you should open from each position as a standard, and then save these ranges into Ecolab or Flopzilla or whatever your favorite way to store your range is. It's quite time consuming to do. It really makes you think hard and determine and understand what is standard for each position. Doing this will not only give you a better understanding of your ranges, but will also help you learn from them after you adjust later on. Then where the Tournament Masterclass comes in is that you can compare your ranges developed to the optimal ones developed by Bencb, and as a result you'll be able to see where you differ and some of the areas you might have some leaks. And in my opinion, this is one of the quickest ways to find big leaks in your pre-flop game, and I know it helped me out a ton. Once you have a strong idea of your standard range, you can then know how to adjust these ranges to any particular table you might be seated at. For example, you might be at a very aggressive table, so then you can tighten up somewhat. Or you might have a fish in the blinds, so you can loosen up quite a bit from late position. Bencb describes these common adjustments as well as other not so common adjustments you can make to exploit your MTT field regarding your opening ranges. I actually covered this topic of range construction in detail in one of my free blog posts, where I discuss how you can go about constructing your pre-flop ranges from scratch. So if anyone else is interested in range construction, I'll leave a link in the description for that down below. Overall, the way the pre-flop is taught by Bencb gets a big thumbs up from me. I really enjoyed it and I took a lot from it. Now on to the next section, which is post-flop. This module is broken down into a number of different topics as before. My favourite section from this probably was the check raising modules, as he really highlights how people are not check raising enough and how aggressive you can be, especially versus smaller c-bet sizes from a late position opener. There is a lot of content in here as shown on screen, but as a highlight, Bencb gives you some general rules of thumb for what to do when facing check raises and how much check raising is too little from your opponent so that you can exploit them. He also lets you in on some key sizing tells for value bets, which you can use when someone check raises, which is very valuable to know. I've actually done this particular tell that he highlighted numerous times myself, and so I'm trying to take that out of my game. One other aspect I like about this section is that Bencb explains that if you're someone who sometimes gets a little bit off track with your thought process, that you should try bring some more structure to your game. In other words, develop a number of questions that you should ask yourself every time you are making a decision on a particular street, which will help you clarify the most profitable play. He also gives you a couple of examples of the type of questions you should be asking yourself on a street by street basis. I won't dwell too much on post-flop as we still have a lot to cover, but again I was quite impressed about what was contained inside of this section. So after post-flop play, you'll move on to short stack play, which covers one of the biggest proportions of the time you'll be playing in MTT, since you're very often going to be below 20 or 25 big blinds. At this stack size, you are essentially just looking for a good situation to put all your money in the middle and hopefully just take down the pot without a showdown. So being aggressive is really important, and this is drilled home in this section of the course by Bencb. Bencb shows you how to develop perfect push call ranges, how we can re-steal, calling steals, and how we can play post flop as a short stack where you can have very low SPRs. This section is really detailed as Bencb was a hyper turbo sit and go player, so this topic or area comes very naturally to him. ICM is the next set of topics. This module is only covered in the expert class and was one of the most difficult concepts for me to wrap my head around coming from a cash game background. But I found this set of topics quite easy to follow, and they added a level of quantification that I didn't really see anywhere else. The heads up section is another part only covered in the expert class and goes into a lot of detail of how to play pre-flop, because this is where the largest difference is going to be between your normal MTT game and heads up. Because in a heads up situation, you're the small blind and also the button. That means you only need to pay half a big blind to see the flop in position. Therefore, limping becomes a big part of your overall strategy. In this section, there are a lot of hand examples and playing explains to really drill home the concepts that are described in the theory section. So I thought this was really well done as well. Along with the course, there's a whole other mini course called the Gto Bible. Again, this is only covered in the expert class. This course basically explains everything you need to know about how to approach the game from a GTO perspective, i.e. developing ranges, using mathematical solvers such as PO Solver and Card Runner ZB in order to tackle a particular problem that you might come across on the table. I haven't watched all of these videos yet, but I will soon as I'll be diving a little deeper into GTO play. But from what I have seen, it's fairly comprehensive. On top of this, you get some extra bonus content, which includes some material from other courses by Riase Your Edge. You get a lesson from Unchained Mindset, which is a course on how to find tilt. You also get some information on how to approach bounty builders, and a video on some of the common leaks for this tournament type. These come from their PKO course, which was released a few years back, which I also signed up for and I'm a big fan of. Finally, you can get some help to prepare for big tournaments, which is based on the most recent Scoop series. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the content of the course. Now I'm just going to go through and summarize what I think are the main pros and cons of the course. So first up, this is the most advanced tournament course I've seen yet, and the content is really top notch. This course really helped prove my game, and there was lots of actionable steps in each video. Then onto the range viewer. I think this is really good. It's an awesome tool, and if you play MTT stakes or say greater than $50, it's almost worth the price of admission alone. As I said, I really like the quizzes. However, one thing I did mention was a little bit more detail. I could probably go into some of them to make them a little bit more challenging and a little bit more comprehensive. But this is something they're working on from what I've seen from the latest YouTube videos. Then actionable advice is given pretty much in every lesson. So after almost every lesson, you'll come away with something that you can apply to your game right away. And then by the end, when you finish the course, you'll have a big list of little small tips that you can add into your game that will improve the overall EV of your strategy. I really appreciate the methodical approach taken and also the comprehensiveness of the course. Bencb gives you a thought process for almost every common situation you will come across. So what questions you should be asking yourself and how you should approach this scenario. And that just makes you a much more well-rounded player with no glaring leaks. Then the homework assignments given after every lesson, which give you targeted ways to improve your game. For anyone that's thinking about signing up, you should really dedicate some time to doing these homework assignments if you want to improve your poker game quickly, as they'll help enormously. Then finally, one thing I haven't really mentioned yet is the Discord channel. So this is another really valuable part of the course. This is a channel full of thousands of other poker players like you who are on the same journey of trying to improve their tournament game. They are all available to ask questions. Maybe you have a hand history to post. Maybe you might want to form smaller study groups, and there's plenty of people out there that you can find to do that with. You can also post hand histories yourself to this group, and sometimes you can even see Bencb replying to these, which is great to see. Okay, so now on to the cons. If there's something I could improve with the course, it would be that they come up with a better numbering system for the lessons, as sometimes it's quite difficult to relate back handwritten notes to the course lessons, as a lot of the names are quite similar. So as I've shown already, they have the ability to take notes on within each lesson, within the actual browser. However, in my opinion, taking notes by hand is much more effective. So if they come up with a better numbering system, that would make that much easier. There are also a number of lessons that are still quite long and need to be shortened into smaller ones, but I think this is being worked on at the moment. Then the fact that you have to know quite a lot of strategy before starting with this course is a major downfall. Well, of course, depending on your skill level. If Riase Your Edge had a beginner MTT course, which was a prelude to the Tournament Masterclass, I'd recommend that anyone who wants to learn MTTs go to this site. However, if you are a beginner, I do have other suggestions, since this is not the case. Then finally, I wish there was a little bit higher resolution on some of the videos. Many only go up to 720p, and for certain situations they're a little bit blurry. For example, if you're looking at solver solutions, there's quite a lot of detail in each of these, and it'd be quite difficult to actually see that easily when you're only dealing with 720p. Okay, so if you want to sign up to the Tournament Masterclass, there are two options: the Apprentice class and the Expert class. So you've already looked at some of the content that isn't covered in the Apprentice class that comes with the Expert class. But just to run over it again very quickly, you get some ICM content in the Expert class. You get the science behind re-steals, you get short stack strategy, and then you also get access to the Gto Bible and Postflop multi-way play module. And then as an extra bonus, you get access to the VIP Discord at Bencb with the Expert class. And comparing them side by side, you get around 20 hours in the Apprentice class and around 50 hours of content in the Expert class. So there is quite a difference there. Well, the Expert class is a really good starting place for somewhat knowledgeable MTT players. Players who do understand pot odds, implied odds, counting outs, etc. but are looking for that next step to bring their game to a new level. Think of a player that is playing micro and small stakes MTTs and maybe is slightly losing or turning a small profit. If you decide that this is the course for you, the Apprentice class retails at $617 when using the discount code HowToApp. So to get that $80 discount, all you have to do is enter that code when checking out. The expert class comes with a lot more content, but obviously a higher price tag. So if you're already turning a nice profit at small stakes and looking for a way to break into the mid and high stakes scene, then you might want to consider the expert class, which contains everything Bencb has to offer regarding regular format tournaments. This course was retailing at $1147 when using discount code HowToEXP. And again, don't forget to enter that code at checkout to save $150. You can always upgrade later, so if you do want to try out the apprentice class and then when you have some extra funds, maybe from some tournaments you've won, you can bump that up to the expert class. It's something you can do, so keep that in mind. One of the best ways to get a feel for how people are finding the course is to look at some customer reviews. If you go to my poker training sites page, I've gathered some reviews that are found on Riase Your Edge. Now, of course, these are all going to be positive. So I think a better way to go about this is to actually look at forums such as Reddit and 2plus2. So if you go onto Reddit, you're going to find people asking questions about the course, and you'll have people that have already bought the course answering. And so you get a much better feel for the day-to-day people that are buying this course and how they're finding it. The one thing I found about this course is that I have yet to see a negative review. Everyone seems to love it, but I'll leave that up to yourself to go check out, and I'll leave some links that you can go read the threads yourself. And you can find these on my poker training sites page as well. One other thing to mention is that one of the biggest staking stables in poker, called Bencb, actually requires you to have completed the Tournament Masterclass. They don't even consider you if you haven't taken the course yet. So that speaks volumes about the quality of the material in the course, and is also somewhat of a customer review. Over the course of the last 3 to 4 years of reviewing poker training sites, I noticed that it was quite difficult to come up with an objective way to rate a training site. So I developed a rating system broken down into 5 different metrics, including what's shown here on my poker training sites page: free trial, money back guarantee, content organization, content depth and comprehensiveness, video and audio quality, and value for money. And so based on these ratings, I gave Riase Your Edge and the Tournament Masterclass the highest rating for a course that I have seen yet. The only place it falls down is the free trial money back guarantee, which still gets an 8 out of 10, which is very high. Some courses do give you a lower entry way to try out the content, but Riase Your Edge, they do give you a 60-day money back guarantee, which is still quite good in comparison to the competition. And in terms of value for money, it is somewhat of an expensive course. But overall, as I said, this is the highest rated course for poker training that I've come across yet, so I can't highly recommend it enough. In terms of alternatives to Riase Your Edge Tournament Masterclass, there are a couple of different options. Firstly, you could look at Upswing's tournament course called Winning Poker Tournaments, and this was created by Nick Petrolangelo. This course is priced similarly to the Tournament Masterclass, and overall is quite comparable. It's very comprehensive, very detailed, and very intense. However, I think the Tournament Masterclass edges it in terms of sheer level of detail goes into the range viewer, and as well I felt I connected a little bit more of the content of Riase Your Edge, but another person might feel differently. The Road to Success course is another option, which has a much lower investment of only $104 for the starter version and around $500 for the premium course. The starter course begins at the fundamentals of poker and requires next to zero knowledge to get going. So this would be a much better option for someone who's maybe not quite ready yet to go for an expensive training option. Maybe someone who's a beginner, is only starting out at poker, that isn't ready yet for the Tournament Masterclass or Winning Poker Tournaments. I also have a full blog post review of the Tournament Masterclass, which covers some more information in detail. I will leave a link for that in the description down below in case anyone feels like they want to read. And I just would like to leave you with, if you do have any questions about Riase Your Edge, the Tournament Masterclass, or even any poker training, you can feel free to leave a comment down below with your question. I'd be very happy to answer it, and I'll do my best to help you out. So that's pretty much it for the video. Like I said, if you plan on signing up to the Tournament Masterclass, Make sure to use HowTo app to save $80 off the apprentice class, and HowTo EXP to save $150 off the expert class. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks guys.